Body hair is a natural feature and part of our everyday life, but when it comes to aesthetics and art in particular, it's often hidden, disliked, or even seen as a symbol of the worst vices. But that hasn't always been the case. Over time, beauty standards and the symbolism of body hair have evolved. For men, weren't hair and beards symbols of strength in antiquity? And wasn't the beard the mark and privilege of great monarchs in the Renaissance? How and why has the depiction of body hair in art sparked legendary scandals? So many questions. In short, how have the length and grooming of human hair helped define our identity in art and society for centuries? That's what we're going to explore today. Does hair make the man? In our culture, the hair is more linked to the masculine and all the associated notions, such as virility and strength. Distinctive features of the male face, the beard, represents power and wisdom. The male gods and heroes of Greek antiquity are often represented with a beard, a sign of their nobility and their belonging to the caste of warriors. But humans are waging a war without mercy in the hair since antiquity. This long history of hair removal has been extensively documented since then through medical and historical treatises that reflect the practices of the time. We know that Egyptian, Greek, and Roman women and men regularly removed all their body hair as a sign of cleanliness and refinement. They already used tweezers, pumice stones, and depilatory creams. Some waxing techniques were later introduced in Europe from the East by the Crusaders. However, the full body hair removal was less common for men than for women. In the Eastern world of antiquity, though, images of bearded women and deities weren't necessarily seen as negative. We find examples like the Babylonian goddess Ishtar or the bearded Venus from the island of Cyprus. In Egyptian antiquity, the beard is associated with both power and virile force, and one of the attributes of royal power is precisely the bearing of the beard. Thus, the pharaoh appears in official ceremonies with a long, narrow, and slightly curved beard. The Queen Hatshepsut, who ruled Egypt during the 15th century before Common Era, is represented here with an artificial beard to affirm that being a woman doesn't prevent her from being a pharaoh. But in the Western world, female facial hair was largely associated with the primitive nature of women and automatically linked to lustful behavior. Indeed, according to the theory of the humors from antiquity, hair was also tied to sexual appetite. Tradition held that abundant body hair signified virility in men and dangerous sensuality in women. With the rise of Christianity, the birth of such beings was often interpreted as physical proof of divine punishment. These newborns were seen as living accusations against their parents having violated moral codes of conception, an offense for which the child would suffer a lifelong penance. Ancient and medieval sources are filled with accounts of monstrous births. Still, while most depictions of hairy women were linked to sin and immorality, there were exceptions, cases where hair or beard symbolized holiness. One of the most striking examples is the legendary of Saint Vilgefortis, also called Saint Julia. There are several versions of her story depending on local traditions, but all sharing the same iconography. In most of them, the core story goes like this. She's promised to a man, then miraculously grows a beard on her face through divine intervention, successfully driving the suitor away just as intended, but in the end she still ends up crucified. In such cases, the beard and masculine features were a sign of sainthood, iconographic markers that help identify these virilized saints. In the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, Mary Magdalene was one of the saints most favored by painters and sculptors. Described by the Dominican monk Jacobus de Voragine in the 13th century in the Golden Legend, the prostitute who washed the Christ's feet before his journey to Jerusalem is depicted nude. A body far too raw for the prevailing morality, so artists chose to cover it with a cascade of hair. While concealing her anatomy, this flowing, often sensual hair subtly alludes to her former life as a sinner. All of these women, whether humble, noble, or saintly, were captured in paintings and prints and later would become part of the memorabilia that filled the curiosity cabinets of Renaissance Europe. Regarding men, royal and noble portraits show us the evolution of fashions during the Middle Ages. Beards seem to have been common during the early Middle Ages, where they were synonymous with virility and social status. As the period progressed toward the late Middle Ages, the overall trend shifted toward adopting a clean-shaven face, even though beards remained locally popular. Indeed, up until the end of the 15th century, hair on the cheeks was associated with non-Christians, meaning Jews and Muslims at the time, as well as the unkept and those in mourning. In the 14th and the 15th centuries, beards were fashionable again. And around 1510 and 1520, the three kings, Francois I, Henry VIII, and Charles V, were all bearded. The Book of the Courtier, written by Baldassare Castiglione, partly explains this success. He indicates that it's necessary to return to a short hairstyle and the beard to become a man of the court, a warrior, and an educated person. So throughout the 16th century, most of men were bearded. Women, on the other hand, remained hairless during the Renaissance. Venus, since Antiquity, is represented without hair. Let's note one interesting point here. The vast majority of female nude paintings in Western art history was created by men. They may have projected their own ideals and male desires more than an accurate reality. The 16th century also had a strong fascination for oddities and all kinds of curiosities, including human beings with unusual physical traits. However, unlike medieval beliefs, this interest is now more scientific thanks to humanist thinking and a shift toward medical explanations instead of divine punishment. Petrus Gonsalves is one of the earliest known cases of hypertrichosis, a condition where hair covers most of the body. Treated like a half-white creature, he was given to King Henry II of France at the age of 10 because of his peculiar appearance. He received an excellent education at court though, got married and had 7 children, at least 4 of whom inherited this congenital condition. The family spent their lives seeking patrons in European courts, especially in Italy. Thanks to the spread of the printing press, images of hairy and bearded women began appearing in natural history books, medical manuals, and philosophical treatises. While these depictions generally adopted a more observational and scientific tone, the representations were therefore ambivalent, oscillating between curiosity, documentation, and lingering superstition. For instance, writer Giambattista della Porta, in his treatise on human physiognomy, claimed that hairy women, like the monster they are a harbinger of disaster. Thanks for them, real classy guy. From this moment on, bearded women began to appear in painting. Throughout the 17th century, it was fashionable among the powerful to collect wonders of nature in cabinets of curiosity, from seashells to portraits of extraordinary people. Brigida del Rio, also known as the Bearded Woman of Peñaranda, was painted by Sanchez Cotan in 1590, while Magdalena Ventura was portrayed a few decades later in Naples by José de Rivera. In both cases, the artists approached their subject without mockery or censorship, documenting their condition with a sense of dignity. Brigida, for instance, is shown with a gentle, direct, and sincere gaze. Her hands rest on her lap, and her clean expression and garments suggest inner honesty. José de Ribera's portrait, on the other hand, captures the quiet pain of a woman who, after developing hirsutism at the age of 37, experienced such a transformation that she took on male features. It was a true mystery in a time when medicine didn't yet recognize hirsutism. Her defiant look as she clutches her nursing child contrasts sharply with the sorrowful expression of her husband, who almost disappears into the background. Regarding fashion and beauty standards, the smooth and powdery faces were privileged in the court from the end of the 16th to the 18th century. The beard was abandoned, and besides wearing a wig, the face also had to be clean-shaven again. This demonstrates a certain social class, since for this you must have either a valet at home or be able to go several times a week to a barber in town, which requires considerable means. At that time, fashion extravagance was definitely centered on elaborate clothing, wigs, and hairstyles, rather than on showing or styling body hair. Quite the opposite of the 19th century, which started embracing and highlighting body hair. The 19th century excelled in hair fantasies. In big cities, men cultivated a sophisticated dandy style, and shaving became a true art. Men used all kinds of accessories to perfect their mustaches, such as lotions, wax, small brushes, or curling irons. In smaller towns, styles were generally less formal and less influenced by the latest fashion trends from big cities. Joseph Roulin, postman of Arles in southern France, painted by Van Gogh, likely had a more practical or personal approach to grooming rather than strictly following urban trends. Let's now talk about female body hair. If there's only one 19th century painting to mention in a video about body hair, it's definitely Gustave Courbet's famous and controversial The Origin of the World. Obviously, the artwork caused a huge scandal because of its explicit and realistic depiction of female genitalia, which was groundbreaking and shocking for its time. Let's compare that with Antoine Cabanel's Venus, a contemporary of Courbet's painting, yet profoundly different. In Cabanel's work, Venus covers her eyes, offering herself to the viewers without disturbing them. In Courbet's painting, everything is raw, the light, the framing, the details. It confronts the viewer without any veil or modesty. Historically, many erotic works were kept hidden in private collections or cabinets of curiosities to avoid public scandal. But the public exhibition of such explicit art like Courbet's The Origin of the World challenged social norms and provoked strong reactions because it brought private taboo subjects into open view. This shift played a key role in debates about censorship, morality, and artistic freedom in the 19th century. Let's also note that the context in which a painting is created is important. It's interesting to see that a workshop painting, a sketch, or a sketchbook will tend to have hairs because the goal is to capture a faithful and realistic image and to practice, while when we move on to the big painting, the hairs disappear. But just wait a few seconds, art scandals keep coming non-stop. Is it really necessary to introduce Gustav Klimt? Emerging in Vienna during the golden age of the Viennese secession, right at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, Klimt was appointed president of this group of artists who had broken away from the traditional fine arts academy. The secession aimed to open the Viennese art to international influences, no longer wanting to remain isolated. They embraced the idea of total art, a concept that unites various artistic forms into one symbolic masterpiece. Klimt painted Nuda Veritas in that context. Sex is the central element of the composition, with the red pubic hair highlighted by the immaculate whiteness of the skin. The painting, unsurprisingly, caused quite a scandal, but with this work, Klimt stayed true to the principles he upheld in his art, being faithful to nature. Barely 20 years later, the Mona Lisa is given a fresh look. This iconoclastic provocation is the work of Marcel Duchamp, the master of ready-mades. Duchamp bought a postcard reproducing Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and drew a moustache and a small goatee in pencil in a humorous and provocative Tudor style. The title takes on its full meaning when pronounced aloud in its original language. Elle a chaud au cul. It's a rather crude way of saying she's burning up in French. Frida Kahlo's unibrow became a strong visual signature. For her, it symbolized the rejection of traditional female beauty standards, especially those imposed by Mexican and Western society, that is to say, the smooth, hairless female ideal. The same goes for the light furs she embraced on her upper lip. Kahlo used her body hair as a feminist provocation. She was very proud of her little mustache, and the artist took great care to highlight this feature in her self-portraits. Her hair was also a statement of her sexual ambivalence and diverse loves. This unsettling painting by Margaret opens the door to many interpretations. A nude female body blends with a face, the pubic hair with the lips. This oil painting belongs to a series based on a drawing made for the cover of What is Surrealism, a text from a conference by André Breton in 1934. Some suggest it references the suicide of the artist's mother, while others see it as a denunciation of violence against women, as the title The Rape implies. In any case, the work is disturbing and was actually covered with a veil during its first exhibition in Brussels in 1930 to avoid scandal. It's also impossible to miss Salvador Dali's iconic mustache, captured here by photographer Philip Halsman. From his teenage years, Salvador Dali built a unique image first sporting sideburns before finally sculpting his famous mustache to fulfill his ambition to compose a masterpiece with his head, according to his own words. In the 1920s and 1930s, with the flapper fashion, women showed more skin, short skirts, bare arms, but hair removal wasn't yet a widespread norm. Body hair was still quite socially tolerated. After World War II, the female ideal favored smooth, hairless skin. The arrival of modern razors and depilatory creams made hair removal easier. Hollywood popularized this hairless look. Smooth legs and underarms became a beauty standard. Men generally stayed clean-shaven on the face, and male body hair wasn't yet a major focus. During the 60s and the 70s, the sexual revolution and social changes shifted practices. The bikini encouraged women to remove more hair, including the pubic area. The feminist movement was divided on hair removal. Some criticized it as an oppressive norm, while others defended it as a personal choice. For men, beards and long hair symbolized rebellion, but body hair grooming remained limited. In the 80s, male body hair, especially a hairy chest, became a sign of virility and rugged masculinity. For women, smooth skin remained ideal, with a rise in related products and treatments. The fitness boom further pushed body care trends, including hair removal. Media exposure and the rise of pornography in the 90s and the 2000s reinforced the female hairless ideal. Smooth legs, underarms, and intimate areas became almost mandatory. Men began paying more attention to body hair, trimming or removing chest and back hair. Laser hair removal technology developed and became more accessible. In contemporary art, body hair is also explored as a subject and a material. Artists depict it symbolically or even use it as a raw medium, creating works that prompt reflection on social issues such as the human body, feminism, or body positivity. Since 2010, there's been more diversity and debate around body hair. Some claim natural bodies are a form of empowerment, while others continue to choose hair removal for aesthetic or personal reasons. Social media and celebrity trends influence styles, from full shaving to natural hair. The male grooming market has also expanded, with products dedicated to body hair care. Body hair has carried ambivalent meanings over the centuries. It has symbolized vital energy, virility, strength, and even spirituality, but also evoked lust, bestiality, and impurity. It often marked the boundary between human and animal, the civilized and the wild, but also represented at times rebellion, struggle, and power. Art is a witness to this evolving worldview, as well as to the changing of tastes and fashions regarding body hair throughout history. Now looking ahead, let's hope that whether people choose to remove or embrace a natural hair, it becomes a personal choice, free of judgment and pressure. And you, how do you see it? Do you see body hair as beauty, identity, or just biology? I'd love to hear your take in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and to keep your eyes on this channel. Thanks for watching.